she's been told.
I just have to keep, they're just gonna keep the job. I don't know.
Health insurance renewal options. I don't think we need to do it at the end. Do it at the end.
You don't have to follow your guidance for a while.
Oh, that's water like
Yeah,
that
but he
at all.
wants to.
No garden
I
right.
didn't know anything.
It has to be, so you want it ready.
You did?
Yeah.
That's kind of going in.
The first thing.
Yeah.
It's the first.
Well, actually,
No, I was doing.
figure out a little bit of money that you got in the plan, you can almost buy it.
Yeah.
And then if a lot of people don't just give their stuff away, I mean.
No, plus
I think that, I think.
we have to be on discussion of possible ones.
Are you,
I
downstairs one?
I had it done on Wednesday, and on Saturday.
See,
And in the
I
kitchen.
did the same thing here.
You know, my watch or go off the clock.
Whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm gonna go off my watch. It's 3:00, I'll call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is approval of the July 1st minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Second.
Second.
Any further discussion on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Public comment. Limit of 3 minutes per person with a maximum public comment of 30 minutes on agenda items only. Do we have any public comment? Hearing none, I will close public comment. Next item on the agenda, presentation, health insurance renewal options. Before we move on to that, I am moving the addendum items 12 and 13 to the first two items under discussion and possible motion, seeing as they deal with the health insurance and HSA contributions. Does anybody on the committee have a problem with that? Alright. Ready when you are.
Alicia, can you hear us?
Hold on, we can't hear you yet.
But I can hear you.
Okay, yeah, I can't figure out the camera, but we can all see you and hear you.
That's great. I don't need to see you. I know what you guys look like. We're good.
I think you're good to go ahead and get started then, Alicia. We'll see if we can get that camera.
All right.
turned on.
Ready for me?
Yeah, go ahead. Thank you.
Right. Second. Is that awkward transition, right? All right. Let me know if you can see my screen.
Yep, we are good.
All right, let's jump in. So, hello, everybody. Thanks for letting me join the board meeting today. My name is Alicia Schwartz. I am the benefit consultant working with Rusk County, and we're going to walk through our 2025 employee benefit renewal. We have some information to share, some not so good news, some really exciting news, and everything in the middle. And then we'll kind of dig into what we need from the board, okay? All right, so we're gonna talk a little bit about the renewal received from your current health plan, some of the claim activity that we know about in terms of the reporting that we're getting. We've talked about that in the past. We did go to market with the medical plan, so we'll talk a little bit about how that worked, what happened, and then we'll dig into recommendations and plan design options. So, to kick things off, we did receive a renewal from your medical carrier, which is Security Health Plan. And for 2025, they're offering a 23% increase to your premium. So that equates to a total premium increase of about 400,000. The county portion, based on the amount of contribution you offer right now, that's about 358,000. So not what we were hoping to hear. If you recall back to when we met last time, we talked a little bit about claims data, and we walked through some of the claims information that we had at the time. And at that time, we thought everything was going really well. So this time last year, we talked about a claims loss ratio, and the ratio is just how much you're paying in premium versus how much you're paying out in claims. And at the time that we talked in December of last year was 86%, which is really good. That means that for every dollar you paid in premium, Security Health Plan was paying 86 cents in claims. Prior to that, it was 85%. We felt like this was a good track record. We felt like we were gonna have a good renewal. So then we got this claim update through March of 2024, and this is kind of where things got a little interesting, I guess you could say. So one of the biggest issues that we have in the fully insured market is that they really determine what data and reporting they provide to clients. And one of the challenges we find in particular with Security Health Plan is that their data is really outdated. So you'll see here that we have claims data through, it says current, is through March of 2024. And then anything that's in the prior year is through March of 2023. So when we look at this, the claims ratio as of current period was 94%. Still good, went up about 10, almost 10%. But in general, it appeared to be still going well. So we were surprised, at the very least, by this offer and had some pretty in-depth conversations with some of the directors at Security Health Plan trying to understand why we were given this renewal based on the claims data we were offered. Really didn't merit a renewal to this magnitude by any means. I would expect a loss ratio closer to like 120% to call for something that big. So anyway, all that to say, I recommended we go to market. I think we had decided that long before this renewal came out, so we were already a step ahead of the mix, just getting on top of what was out there in terms of rates. So we went to 5 different carriers. The priorities really were, number one, cost savings. Again, at the time we started the RFP, we didn't know that this was gonna happen, but halfway through the process, we got that renewal and realized that was gonna be the biggest priority. But we also wanted to address some feedback from employees in understanding what it is that they wanted from that survey. We talked a little bit about what that survey looked like the last time we met. We also wanted to make sure that there were similar networks and plan design so that we were doing a service to employees, not making them worse off or narrowing their options, anything like that. So in the grand scheme of things, we had three carriers decline. They just said they weren't either available in the networks in the area or weren't able to offer a competitive offer. We had a fourth offer that was 42% over current, obviously not something we were looking to move to. And the best offer was 2% under current, so a negative 2%, which is really good. So we'll get into a little bit about that particular carrier, but really high level. The name of the carrier is Group Health Trust, and there's a lot of different names, acronyms, and words that go along with this carrier, so I'm gonna go really high level now, and we'll dig into it a little bit. So the Wisconsin Counties Association, or the WCA, owns a self-funded health plan, and they offer that to any public sector group in the state of Wisconsin. So schools, municipalities, counties, those types of things. Sorry, not schools, just municipalities, public sector groups. And that plan is called the Group Health Trust, or we call them GHT for short. So we'll get into a little bit about that, but some of the things that we also wanted to do, knowing that we had an offer that was pretty good, similar plan design, and we'll talk a little bit about the changes in the pharmacy enhancements to the plan and things like that. We also knew that in the year 2025, there was a budget for about a 10% increase. We wanted to see where we could reinvest some of those funds, knowing that the rates wouldn't go up. Again, to appeal to what the employees are asking for, which really were increasing the HSA contribution, decreasing the monthly premium keeping prescription costs low. And also, one of the smaller changes was Security Health Plan no longer offers vision exams at no cost, as a preventive care. So we wanted to make sure we could find a vendor that was gonna be able to do that. Okay, lots of words, I'm gonna pause for questions.
Doesn't look like it.
Great. All right, so let's talk a little bit about finalists, which was Group Health Trust. So again, this is the Wisconsin Counties Association self-funded plan. Within the negotiation and offer, we were able to get a second year rate cap or not to exceed in your contract, which is no more than 9.5%. This provides great stability for you in 2026. You already know what your cap is gonna be, which can be really helpful. Of course, they will underwrite your plan and give you the rate you deserve in terms of claim history, kind of like those loss ratios and things. So if they feel like it's calling for a less than 9.5, you'll get the less than. So overall cost impact would be a rate reduction of 44,000 in overall premiums. One thing that we have right now, we have 3 plans currently. You have 2 plans that are similar but have different networks so that people can purchase or choose a plan that is a more narrow network for a cost decrease. And they don't have that option here. So we would just go back to the 2 basic plans, and we'll dig into that a little bit more in a minute. They also have a list of preventive prescriptions similar or better than what we have seen at Security Health Plan. Last year, we did market to Group Health Trust, and the rates in the end were pretty close to the same as the Security Health Plan renewal was. But the biggest difference was their prescriptions were not nearly as robust. And so people were gonna be facing a pretty significant increase in their out-of-pocket when it came to prescription coverage. And this year they offered an enhanced list. They have kind of revamped their HSA-approved prescription plan. And so a lot of new drugs added to the plan that will also be $0 cost. Very hard to say that blanket statement, it's better, because a lot of times formularies, which is literally just a big long list of prescriptions, can be different, even though they're covering for different things. So as an example, you may take one generic drug for diabetes on one formulary and have to switch to a different. So sometimes there's shifts and differences between the 2, but generally speaking, this one was better, which is great. So what does this mean? This means that we're making a recommendation to accept the offer from Group Health Trust. And you'll see here that we would offer the same 2 plans, the $5,000, $10,000 plan, and the $3,300, $6,600 plan. The $3,300, $6,600 plan, one on the bottom, went up by $100 per person, $200 per family, just to remain in compliance with the HSA requirements. Other than that, the plan design stayed the same. So what we're looking to do is increase the contribution from the county, again, to address that employee request to make the plans more affordable. So the county would change the $5,000 plan from 85% contribution to 88%, and the $3,300 plan would be an 85% contribution. Last year, you guys had an 85% across the board. That was the dollar amount from the $5,000 plan was locked as a dollar amount to the $3,000 plan. So it was like a dollar amount contribution from the base plan.
Does that make sense to everyone? So
I know it's kind of hard. I have some spreadsheets that I'll show you in a second. So if it's not quite connecting, hopefully I can get you there in a second.
well, really quick too, Alicia, if I can just jump in. So essentially to what that would mean is, say for the $5,000, $10,000 plan, the 85% that the county was contributing was $50, just for ease of math, $50, and the premium, was $100. The employer would pay $50 and the employee would pay $50. Say for the $6,600 plan, the premium was $300. We still contributed just $50 to that, and the employee then had to cover that rest of $250. So we took the 85% of that larger plan, that $5,000, $10,000, and whatever that dollar we contributed that same dollar amount to the 3366 plan, which led for, I can't remember, I know we did the math, Alicia, but it was a pretty significant amount that the employee had to pay to be on that plan. Was it like 74%?
Yep, so-
70, even more than that.
Yeah, here's if you wanna look at that, kinda like as you're going through it, so right now, this is the plan you have right now. So you have this $5,000 plan where the employer's paying 85%, okay? And that was it also the same 85% for the $5,000 plan with the more narrow network? And then this number here, where it says employee month, this is the premium they were paying in these columns here. And then this plan, we basically called it a buy-up, meaning if you want to put more premium towards a plan, we'll match how much we're paying. So it was 85% of this base plan. So you see here, single 482.32, 482.32. So the employee is absorbing the difference. So there was no change in the amount that the county is contributing towards the base plan and the buy-up plan.
So one thing that we really heard from employees was, hey, we want this plan that has a lower deductible. And they essentially were to get that last year. They got that last year, but I don't think people fully realized that it was going to be at such a higher cost. Like obviously, you know, it is going to be a different cost with that lower deductible. You're not gonna give it to them for that same cost, but what we heard from a lot of employees, we only have a few people on that plan right now, but if you look at the difference, if you're a single, just an employee taking a plan, it was $58 per month for like our base plan, right? No, 85, sorry, did I say 85?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
and then, for that other one, it's 145, so that's a pretty big significant difference. Same with like the family is 2 something, and then the family for that lower deductible plan was in the 400. So a very vast difference in premiums to get that lower deductible.
So we're trying to kind of close that gap a little bit. So we could talk a little bit about the 2 different options that we're providing for the board to look at and consider. And essentially what it is, it will show you the contribution strategy and how that looks. And then also asking for the county to consider offering or increasing the HSA plan as well. So here is option number 1. So, again, the lay of the land here is this is the new plan. So we have the $5,000 plan with 88% contribution. And then we have the $3,300 plan with the 85% contribution. If the HSA remains the same, which is $2,000 per person, $4,500 per family, the total cost to the county would be a 3% increase, or about $62,000. If we look at the decrease to employees, I think this is really significant and an area to really, really celebrate, is this reduces every employee's plan, regardless of which one they choose. So as an example, if you were on the $3,200 plan, you're reducing your premiums by nearly $50, $170 if you're on the family plan. And if you enroll the $5,000 plan, that monthly premium reduces by about $20 for single and up to $60 per family. I'm just pausing there, let everyone kind of absorb and think through that. A lot of numbers here, but I would just focus on this 88%, the HSA contribution, and the total cost to the county. Okay? Again, remembering that the budget was 10% increase. One thing that we wanted to be cautious about is going too high over that 10%, knowing, based on what Security Health Plan told us about the plan and why they were getting such a big increase, they know there are high cost claimants coming onto the plan that were really showing up on those reports. So we want to be conservative in the approach and not go too high over or close to that 10%. We still feel like this is an improvement. So the other option is to increase the HSA, which is another request by employees, by $2,400 for single, $4,800 for family. And then that impacts the budget by about 5% versus the 3%.
So it's an increase by 400 for the employee and then 300 for employee plus one and employee plus employee. And that would be a total increase for the county of 5%.
So if it's helpful, I can talk a little bit more about group health trust as a carrier. If you guys want to kind of talk through it, we can talk through it, whatever is helpful for you, you let me know.
What carriers does this group do? Both Oakleaf and Marshfield Clinic?
Could you hear that, Alicia?
Nope, sorry.
She asked what carriers they do, so Oakleaf, Marshfield, maybe touch on that.
A great question. So one of the things that I like about Group Health Trust is that they have a very, very broad network. So really high level, again, we're talking about the self-funded plan owned by the counties association, right? Their third-party administrator is UMR, which is a very large TPA, really well known in this area. Their pharmacy manager is Caremark, CVS, very big provider in the area. And then their network is UHC Choice Plus, which is the broadest form of networks that they have. And yeah, there is nearly zero disruption. So Oakleaf, Mayo, pretty much every provider that you can think of, Marshfield's in there, Aspirus, really robust, big, long list of networks. So we talked about the formulary and that prescription coverage, that they're adding the vision exams. We talked about the negotiation to give you that 9.5% rate cap. And then we also negotiated a little bit of an earlier renewal release just so that we know in advance of when the plan renews. We were able to find out that information sooner this year because we did market the plan, and Social Security Health Plan had to release it earlier, but normally they don't release the renewal until the middle of September, which puts the county in kind of a tough spot to be voting and budgeting and all of the stuff right before the open enrollment session starts. One other thing I think is really worth mentioning in terms, we talk about what are we trying to do globally here, is offer really, really good plans, enhancement to the plans too for employees. And Group Health Trust has a wellness program that is offered to all employees, which has proven to be really, really successful in a couple of other counties locally. So one of them is called Better Health, and it targets really specific chronic conditions like diabetes and joint health, blood pressure disorders, those types of things. It also targets people with mental wellness, musculoskeletal, which is like joint pain, back pain, knee pain, those types of things. And it customizes a program for each individual. There's one-on-one coaching, nutrition coaching, group coaching, all kinds of things like that. The goal is to either improve BMI, help people lose weight, or help people monitor and better manage their A1Cs. This is a really nice program. One of our other county clients was piloting this program and had some really, really good testimonials. So really, really great plan. There's also an option for employees to purchase a meal delivery service plan for just $5 per meal, which is kind of cool. And the last one is a one pass select, where an employee can purchase a membership to some fitness access. So most of them are online. There's a few bigger fitness facilities that are more naturally based that wouldn't really probably meet the needs in Lady Smith, but still a really nice program for people to sign up and do online fitness instruction. There's grocery delivery options, in-person gym memberships, and things like that. That's a little bit more of Group Health Trust. Any other questions about the costs, the recommendations, the contributions?
I'd like to go back to that spreadsheet you had up there with by contributing the extra to the HSA.
Is this one helpful?
Yeah,
This is the one with the increased HSA, and if I go back one slide, that is without the increase. So you can see the dollar amounts here, 62,000 if we don't increase the HSA, 104 if we do. Worth noting, maybe just as you kind of noodle it, the plan you have right now, these enrollment numbers here, these numbers in yellow, matter. Because you had 3 plans, you have people that may be shifting out and on different plans and kind of rearranging, so these estimates can be pretty basic, just estimates based on how people enroll. But I think it's helpful to look at when you consider what we saw in the employee survey. Employees said they were really 50-50 split, right? They either wanted coverage that was very low out of pocket, we didn't have to pay hardly anything for claims. And then you had employees that wanted really, really low monthly expense and monthly exposure. And I think the way, the team has kind of decided to change this monthly amount for employees really allows them to make that choice. You can save monthly or purchase a plan that is lower out of pocket.
you have anything, Ashley, to add to this, as far as, from the employee survey and stuff that you've gotten back?
The biggest, like Alicia had said, the biggest thing that I have heard is how high our deductibles are and the premiums that we pay is the biggest, and really being how high our deductible is. So anybody that's using that insurance is really spending a lot of money to have to use our insurance. I haven't heard much about the HSA, but I think a lot of people with the HSA are the people that have been working here for a long time when the HSA was really high and then it got cut. I think those are definitely a lot of the people that, still continue to talk about that.
In your opinion,
A lot
is this
of
the right way to?
open comments about bring back the HSA. We heard open comments,
Yeah,
please
and
bring back
how
our
high
HSA.
was it?
6750.
What was it again?
6750. And we cut 2250 out of it.
Was that for family?
Yeah. And that was 4, 5, 6 years ago.
That was single plus and the family, I think, at a higher rate, didn't it? I think.
They both were higher.
Yeah.
So for somebody that maybe wasn't on it before, so it was $67.50 the county contributed. And then the deductible was higher though then, wasn't it?
No, it was only 4,000 actually at that time.
It was what?
4,000, I think it was, is it in 2020 that it went up to 5,000?
19 or 20. The deductible was lower than the HSA was higher.
I think at that time max out of pocket might have been the same as the deductible.
One additional thing that I don't think we covered, Alicia, too, is we wouldn't be doing any out-of-network coverage like we've done in the past. That would be a little new to us. However, talking about the network that with UMR or the UHC Choice Plus, there's so many more options that they offer, even out of state and everything, that there's really no need for that out-of-network coverage, and that would increase our cost by 2%, was it?
Yep. So your plan now, the security health plan doesn't have out-of-network coverage, so it's not like people would be losing that option. Most plans do offer out-of-network coverage where their deductibles are usually double, if not more. So if you look at this plan, 5,000, 10,000, an out-of-network plan would be 10,000 per person, 20,000 per family. So yeah, it's not a negative because you weren't getting it before. The security health plans network was a little bit more narrow. They did have a wrap option where, let's say you had a college student go to school, you could fill out a form where you had to kind of state their address and where they lived and where they could go to the doctor and they would approve it. And you didn't have to do that in this case with this new carrier.
There's plenty of options countrywide for.
So the main providers in our area, people can they're not gonna be narrowed down to. So that's important, I mean,
Yep, that's what one of the things.
you've
we
done a
talked about.
plan and make your premiums drop, and then you're narrowed to who you can go
And pay
see and
for it.
can't see, well.
I mean, we were really excited about this, especially being able to potentially offer that lower deductible, lower out-of-pocket max with an affordable premium to the employee versus what we kind of had before. Which is why we did make those numbers pretty conservative. It's hard to say with that 60 being in that 3,200 plan. We definitely, I think we only have 4 or 5 in our 3,200 plan right now. But that is because of the amount of premium it is.
Yeah, I think we have it right here. Yeah, you have about 17 total. Is that what you're talking about, the enrollment amount?
Yeah, the other one though, 9, the 3,200. There's 17 in the narrow network, 9
Yep.
in the 3,200, and then 102 in our base, the 5,000 base. Which is any provider, well not any, but the Mayo, Marshfield, Oakleaf. What are your guys' thoughts?
The second cap is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
Gonna get that right.
We do have some high claims coming through. That'll help protect us.
What?
That will help protect us with that second year.
And this has to be negotiated by August 31st. Is that correct?
When would, the contract have to be signed, Alicia?
I would say as soon as possible, just so that we can get started on our, employee communications. Employees are offered the opportunity to start calling UMR so that they can, ask questions about what prescriptions I am on, or I'm, seeking care from a provider, are they in network, and ask those questions. So we always say the sooner the better, but yeah, I think if you can do it before, let's say, I'm looking at a calendar, 1 second here, the 23rd, so that would be 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks.
Is there something you wanted negotiated more?
No, I was just wondering if it's doable.
She brought the papers to sign today, so.
Do we have any more questions for Alicia?
So we could, I'm just wondering if now's the time to, well, maybe that ain't part of this discussion, but what would it roughly add if we raised that HSA some more?
What do you reckon?
Another couple $100, 26.52.
We do 300 on each to make it divisible by 12.
I can
We can
pull up
afford
that
it,
sheet,
yeah.
if you want me to.
Well, you haven't seen the budgets yet for next year, but.
I mean, maybe now's the time to fix this a little bit. It's been an issue since I've been on here.
What are we gonna do with the 45 extra, 45 we're saving?
That went back into, premium, 3%.
So I went back into premiums, but you could put it in an HSA.
We lowered premiums to.
So it would be about a 7% increase, I think.
What, are you looking at increasing HSA more? I can throw it in the
Yeah.
calculator if you want.
Yeah, adding 300 to each one.
Adding 300 to the single, so 2,700, and you add 52.
5,100.
Seven, we were figuring 10.
Well, we had to kind of throw a ballpark number. What we
we have built into the budgets is a 10% increase on our current premiums, which is about 160,000.
And that's what, 143? Sorry, it's hard.
I like that better, if we can make it go. I think that shows that we're trying to move in the right direction at the same time. I mean, I would hope the employees would see that it's a big increase in it. It seems like it's something I've heard time and time and time again. I don't know, you guys talk to more than I do.
I think that when the premium continues to increase and you start taking that deductible going higher and then your HSA goes lower, it's like getting a cut, no matter even if you give them a 2% increase, insurance takes that away plus more. So they would said nothing less.
I asked Deputy Grassman a question. Is this something you were hoping to see us move towards? Is this a positive thing for what we had discussed?
I know, just referring to our department, we've probably heard the same amount of complaints as you guys have over the last, well, ever since the HSA was cut by a couple $1,000. When the HSA was cut by a couple $1,000, deductibles didn't go down, premiums didn't go down, it was just a, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was a $2,200 cut, $2,250 cut, just like that, and nothing was given to the employee after that taking, besides premiums going up, deductibles going up, and HSA staying the same. So, to be perfectly honest, if the county can do something, I'm not saying that we need that $6,750 back to be happy, because that's not gonna make everyone happy, I get it. But if employees can see that our premiums are going down a little bit, deductibles might go down a little bit, we're getting a little bit more in HSA, nothing's going to hurt. You're still gonna have the employees that are gonna complain about it.
Well, I know this was a conversation that we'd had when you were here. And,
You guys will never make 350 people happy.
Well, no, we will never make everyone happy. I'm just wondering if this is something that you see as a positive from our discussions that we had.
I think I see a positive that you guys are willing to entertain it.
And we do have that as two separate agenda items, those are the two addendums to actually, have
Yes,
those
and
conversations
we're
around.
gonna get to that, yes. So do we have any more questions for Alicia before we move on?
And Alicia, we're not fully
I do
done with the
have-
presentation, correct?
Say that again?
We're not fully done with the presentation, I think we have to move on to dental.
Right.
Yep, there's one other thing, maybe 5 minutes, so we can dig into that unless you guys wanna wrap this part up.
Does the vision come into that part of it? It isn't a separate.
The vision-
thing, correct?
Yeah, so you have vision coverage as voluntary for employees to purchase, but this plan, this health plan will add back preventive vision coverage, which was covered in the past. The Security Health Plan, reinterpreted the rules about preventive care, decided to take vision out of it, and that was something that employees were kind of upset about for a while.
So they'll look at a yearly vision exam.
That's included in the first part of this, okay.
But they can still take vision insurance on
Yes.
top of that if everyone.
Well, who needs glasses? I mean, really,
They're overrated.
they're overrated.
Raise the HSA contribution too?
I agree.
24 to 27. Bring the big.
All right,
Was
are we good to move over to
They
dental?
did it at 24 for this option.
I believe so.
5,100.
Okay. So just to bring us back to the last time we met, which was in the fall, some of the initiatives that we've explored and talked about were self-funding. Self-funding can afford an employer, whether they're public sector, private sector, large or small, a little bit of more maybe you could say control over some of the things, about your plan design and the rate structures and things within that you can't necessarily get with fully insured. One example, as we just talked about, is the reporting that we were given from Security Health Plan was so outdated that we were not prepared to get a 24% renewal. We had no idea that the plan wasn't performing well, and some of that reporting would have been really helpful to know. Luckily, we had already made the decision to market, we were already well on our way, and the reporting in this case was kind of in our favor because Group Health Trust wasn't underwriting knowing there was a high cost claimants on the plan that made that go higher. So having said all that, some of the things that we are looking to do over the next few years is begin evaluating whether self-funding is right for the county. Self-funding can be risky, right? You take a fully insured plan, they tell you what to pay, and they pay 100% of the claims. All that risk is on the carrier. When you're self-funded, you pay all the claims, and then you hire an administrator to manage all of the things. Manage the pharmacy prescriptions, they manage the plan, they manage the network, all the things we just talked about. And then you pay them a fixed fee. So you have some fixed fees because you're paying your administrator and broker and all the things, and then you have your claims. And this can be kind of intimidating, and there's not necessarily right for everybody. You have to have a healthy population, you have to have an engaged population, and you also have to have a little bit of a risk tolerance. So one way to look at self-funding at a little bit less of a risky way is to look at it from the dental side. So typically, if you think about your dental insurance plan, every person has an annual maximum that coverage is going to cover. Whereas in the insurance world, you pay a deductible first, right? You as a member has a certain amount of exposure, anything over that is covered by the insurance company. Dental is kind of flipped over, right? The first $1,200, $1,250, whatever the annual max is the most an insurance plan will save or pay out. So in doing a self-funded for dental, your exposure is reduced significantly, and it pretty much caps out, right? You can do pretty quick math to say, hey, we have 300 people on our plan, times $1,000 max, we know the max is gonna be this much. So if you do a self-funded model, you would pay Delta Dental, who's your current carrier, a fee, and they would provide you with a plan, a network, all the discounts, everything they do now. Employees wouldn't really see a difference in the grand scheme of things. It would just be how the plan is managed. The rates are created through a recommendation with Delta Dental based on your expected claims. So they'll say, okay, if you have paid out $60,000 in claims for this year, we anticipate your rates to be right here to keep your plan running at about a 0. And the benefit of that is really that you would end up potentially saving money, which then you can grow over time and reinvest into the plan. So this is an analysis of what that looks like. So really quick, this year, the plan received a 7% increase. Now remember, we're just talking about dental, so the dollar amounts are way smaller. 7% increase on the health plan was way larger, right? So the renewal for fully insured, 7%, it's about $5,000. This is a voluntary plan, so this does not cost the county anything right now. So if you were to self-fund, the Delta Dental came up with a rate, and it pretty much matches what the fully insured rate would be. Again, that makes sense though, right? Because Delta Dental is looking at the claims as a fully insured carrier and saying, we probably needs to raise your rates because your plan is running maybe higher than expected. Okay. So, backing into some explanations on whether this is like good, bad, costly, that type of thing. Last year, from July 2023 to June of 2024, the total amount of claims was 62,000. That's how much Delta Dental paid in claims for everyone. The year prior to that was 61,999. And if you look at the amount of premium, your current plan, you paid about 70,000. If you renew as is with a 7% increase, it'd be about 74,900. And if you self-fund, it's pretty close to the same. So if you think about that, if you pay out a little less than you're paying in premium, Delta Dental is keeping that difference, to, pay the bills, keep the lights on, those types of things. So reward of a self-funded plan is a good year, allows you for future reinvestment into the plan. Maybe eventually your goal could be to contribute towards the premiums of, 25% or 50% or whatever. Also is gonna give you some experience to being self-funded. That's just helping you understand it, helping the team administer self-funded, get to know it, understand a little bit. The risk of self-funding is there's always the chance that you have a really high claim year and that you exceed that annual premium amount. And then you would have to pay the difference in that, right? There's a tiny little bit more in administration by the county, which really is just reconciling those weekly claim reports that are sent through Delta Dental. There's a lot of words. I'm gonna pause and just kind of talk through this with you, what questions can you answer?
Well, but
So,
there wouldn't be
again,
any catastrophic event under this.
Yep, go ahead.
Right? It's not like health insurance, there's not gonna be a catastrophic event under this.
Right, like she said, there's gonna be like a
I
cap.
mean, you know going in.
Yep.
What the number is.
Yep.
So how would you go over that number?
I don't think you would. I think the risk is that the claim cost is more than we took in on premium, right, Alicia?
I can't hear anybody else, so you wanna repeat that, Ashley, for me?
So, okay, so Mike is asking if we have that set number, so you said 300 employees at a $1,000 max, so we know that that would be the top of
Yeah.
what we would pay out. So what is the risk to the county? Is it that the claim number goes higher than the amount of premiums we've taken in?
Exactly, yes, that's exactly it. So if I take 72 people right now are on the plan and I multiply that by the annual max of 1,000, your claims probably couldn't exceed like 73,000. Now that's just claims, right? Because we still have this $15 in administration, so it would be another 15 from 72. Let me just.
So the only way you could go over is admin cost based on, if you maxed out the dollar amount that you had planned for, then you would just, the overage would be admin cost because you've got more claims to process.
But that's.
Is that right?
Yeah, so super quick math, if I take like total claims plus total admin, the most you would pay out is gonna be about 85,000, give or take. Again, that depends on claim experience, and if you have more people come onto the plan, right, that changes your annual max, changes how much you're getting into premium too.
In the last 2
So
years, we were at
85,000.
61 and 62.
And it looks like
Correct.
we would take in 75,000 in premiums, so our exposure would be like 10 grand.
Yeah.
Yep.
800 bucks a
got it.
month.
So you'd be getting 75,000 in premium, you'd be paying out about 13,000 in administration. So another step towards evaluation, just understanding where the market is. I know there's been talk about, what's happened in our plans in the past and how hard it is to absorb those big costs. And quite frankly, if you have another high claim year, you have a lot of high cost claims in your medical plan, you can expect a high renewal. That's just how the fully insured market works. Trend for medical claims is well over 13% high, meaning just the cost to seek care, right? And so why is that important? It just means that in the state of Wisconsin, we're the 5th highest cost state in the country to receive care. So that just tells you that the trend is continuing to go up and to the right, right? And a lot of employers are finding that self-funding can help them be a little bit more intentional about managing the costs by engaging, on your site clinic to carve care out of higher providers. or do direct contracts with clinics that do knee replacements at a considerably lower cost, or engage like a tobacco cessation program to get people who have hypertension and smoke, reduce their risk on the plan. And a lot of that costs money, and if you are investing that into your health plan, but not reaping the benefits because you're fully insured, it doesn't typically make sense to do that. So that is why self-funding is becoming such a big conversation in the market, because employers, specifically here in the state of Wisconsin, are just kind of like, banging their head against the wall, trying to do things differently and find out what they can do to really change the narrative and get ahead of these high claims and higher premiums at big increases like that. So it's part of the conversation.
And I don't think we have concerns on the fiscal side of self-funding the dental plan. Our concerns are the administrative burden on the HR and finance offices.
Yeah, I can show you, let's see, I'm gonna share my screen really quick here. Sorry, I keep going back and forth. The general lift for administration really is just gonna be in the implementation at the front end. And then after that, it's just like, a couple times a month and every Monday, you're gonna get an email from Delta Dental that says, hey, here's all the total claims for the week. You go into your fund, make sure that there's funds for them to draw each week. And I think we've talked about this before too. If you have specific questions, we're more than happy to give you a reference of clients who are doing it right now, so they can give you a really specific, hey, this is what I do. This is about how much time per month it takes me to manage this compared to any other plan that we do.
Specifically, Jamie and Ashley, what are your concerns with doing this?
We don't have the staff time, really,
That's what I was thinking for the savings here, it's not gonna be worth it for the extra
because
work.
they're really, the savings would be for the employee, not the county. If there is savings.
Right, well, then that's why I wanted how you feel about doing this.
Based on our current hours and staffing, we really don't have the capacity for it.
So what would be the cost to the employee that would be different?
Because the dental is a cafeteria plan, it's funded by the employees. So like the county wouldn't have any potential like premium savings. It would be on the employees.
If the plan performs better than expected, the premiums would remain in an account that the county manages. So you could return that money back to employees for like a premium holiday if you wanted. Otherwise, that premium would remain like part of the county's fund, if that makes sense.
Yeah, but the admin burden would be.
That's specifically what I was going to, is the burden that it would put on the finance department and HR. How,
Well, Jamie reconciles most of our bills right now, so I really don't, unless,
How does it run now? At this point?
well, yeah, Jamie
Yeah,
would.
I spent, because, Ellie was doing it, but then, I just continued doing it after she left. But we've got the health insurance, the couple of the Metro bills, dental, vision, but it's not so much the bills, it's the weekly remittances that would come in.
Right. Yep, so you're no longer just getting an invoice and paying it, you're getting a weekly, pull for an ACH draw that's coming out of the plan every week. Yep.
and that involves the treasurer's office and too.
Yeah, it'd be similar to like the EBC, but on a larger scale.
I think, as far as when you're weighing out capacity versus cost, this is a neutral cost, right? So if just from this analysis, this is cost neutral, So if it's a capacity issue, this is a great time to just say, hey, we looked at it, we understand how it works, and maybe we look at it again next year. You know, if it was saving you 12% and decreasing employees' premiums significantly, that conversation may look different. But at this point, this is really a neutral decision, because there's no, from the plan itself, there's no change in your premiums.
Exactly.
And I think the reason why it was brought up in the first place, Alicia, and correct me if I'm wrong, is because the county may have talked about one point in time looking at self-funding medical. And so it was like, okay,
Yeah, so-
we would be moving towards that ever a good try, like, hey, if our 5-year plan is we eventually wanna start self-funding our medical, try this on a very smaller scale, what that kinda looks like. But I don't know that we're moving in that direction right now.
Very well said. That is on our strategic plan, for 5-year plan, is to consider self-funding for the county as a whole for the medical plan. So this is one step towards that, just to kind of get to know it. Again, cost neutral, it's not saving you a ton of money, it's more for the experience. And if that's not a good fit, you can look at it again next year, no big deal.
Any other questions for Alicia? No. Do you have anything else for us, Alicia?
That's it.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right,
We'll be in
have a great
touch.
night, thanks everybody.
You too.
Okay. So, we will move on to discussion and possible motion, and we're going to go with approve the 2025 health insurance plan. So, what we just looked at.
You need a motion? Is that what you're looking for?
I do need a motion.
I'll move to approve.
Do I have a second? Do we have any further discussion? I think, Jim, you were wanting to maybe go to the 7%, increase the HSAs to that 7% level, to
Right, but we can discuss that next
so,
week.
Yes.
right. You know,
You
so
good with
that's
that,
something,
or-
no, I'm good with that, I'm just
Okay.
making sure we're on the same page. Any other discussion?
Cause right now, we're just approving the
We're just
actual
approving the
plan
actual
with
plan,
GHD.
right.
Yep, and we'd be signing that because what we signed for the contract has nothing to do with the plan design with the HSA amounts, that would be, you can still change.
I mean, doing the plan's a no-brainer.
Right.
Dan saving the county money, and it sounds like the coverage is gonna be better, from what I understood.
But you're not gonna get kneecapped next year.
Exactly, we're capped at 9.5 for next year, so I mean, so any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Alright,
Opposed? Motion carries. Now we're on to approve.
Mr. Chair, who do you want to sign the contract? Typically it'd be the board chair, right? You said? Is that okay?
Yes. Now we're on to approve the 2025 HSA contribution amounts. Do I have a motion?
7%.
would be the 27.
2,751
I'll move.
Second.
to, any further discussion? Hearing none,
Very quick, just so you know, cause the employees will say, so I just want everybody to be aware, so you're going to 2,700, correct? And 5,100. The current was 2,045, so you're increasing the single by 700 and only the other one by 600, not that I'm just saying.
Well, it's a percent of a higher number.
Yeah, so they're getting a much higher percentage for the single than
Correct.
you are for a family. So, that's fine, I'm just making everybody aware that it was
It's a lump sum amount, not a percent of
Yeah.
each number. Right?
Yes.
Cause we'd be,
Yeah,
Yes.
from X to X.
Yeah.
yes. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Alright,
Opposed? Motion carries. Alright. Temporary approval for information and assistance position to work outside flex schedule.
Yes, I'm presenting on behalf of Jeremy, so, if you guys remember a couple months ago, we came here for approval for the information and assistance position to work outside the flex schedule. Why we hired that second person did put in their notice, we had hired the second person, we were hoping to kind of get away from that, because you guys had wrote that notice through, I think it expires sometime this month. So our INA person did resign, so we have this position back out for recruitment right now, and we are required by the state to get some of those screens done, within a certain time frame. So we're requesting that we allow the staff member when needed to work outside of the 6 a to 6:30 PM schedule. To date, she only has actually done it once, as she has been able to get the needed hours in from that 6 a to 6:30 p, but she appreciates having the option. So we're asking that we make the motion allowing this until the new INA is hired and trained in, because that's really what it depends on, when we need those screens to get done by, for the state requirements.
So we're looking 60, 90, 120 days, somewhere in
No
there.
idea, it took us a long time to hire the first one because of the requirements that are needed by the state. Which is why they are asking that it's open-ended till approved.
Do I have a motion to approve this?
I'll move.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 3, approve temporary jail dispatch and patrol vacation usage outside of contract.
Okay, good afternoon, thanks for the time. We went to our committee, due to the lack of, employees we have and the forced overtime they've had, their vacation time is not getting used. And, so we asked for a one-time deal to allow them to carry over any unused vacation and use it within 6 months, or the option of having it paid out at the end of that year. When they make the decision if they wanna carry it over, or they get paid out on it. Just a one-time deal. And
You're asking for this year?
it'll go, the only thing we wanna change on it was cause everybody else goes from January to January, and our people go from hiring date, so we'd like to go from,
Hire date to hire date.
right, but go back to June, or July 1 to June 30th, 25, that would be the year period, that would give everybody time to, have that. Because, right now, upstairs, I can only allow one person off at a time. I need 8 females, I have 4, so that they're not getting a vacation at all. And I don't think it's fair that they lose that vacation, which is what it is, you use it or lose it. I'm asking for them to be able to carry it over and give them 6 months to use that carried over time. At the end of the, if they choose to carry it over and they don't use it at the end of 6 months, then they lose it. If they have that option, they don't get a carry it over and then get paid out at the end. It's a choice you make, you either pay it out at the end of the year, or you carry it over and you use it in 6 months. Kind of a one-time benefit to them because of what we're putting them through right now, the insurance stuff.
Can I ask a question then? So if you're not full staffed, are they gonna be able to take that, if they choose to wanna take their vacation in that they carry over and you don't, not full staffed and you're not able to, then what, they lose it?
That's the choice they're gonna take is, we do everything we can. Phil and George are very, very good about if somebody really wants vacation, they got something really planned, we try and work it out. We really do. We try and make it happen, but it's very difficult when you're running half staff, but.
Well, they should at least get paid.
Or
And it's not,
I mean, it's not their choice if they're not able to take it.
no, that's what I'm saying. They shouldn't get penalized.
Can I ask some clarification questions?
No. Yes.
So right now, if they get their vacation on their anniversary date, then they have that year to use it. But then, if when they get their next year's vacation, they have 3 months to use that. So we would be adding 3 months to what they
Right,
currently have.
normally, you're able to carry over 48 hours,
Okay, yeah,
and you get 3 months to use it,
okay.
okay?
40.
Huh?
Or 40.
Or 40?
It says 48 in the jailer one here.
Well, she's talking just jailers.
Well, yeah, but.
But yeah, you usually get 3 months to use up down 48 hours that you carried over. I'm asking for 6 months because they may have more than that they carry over.
Okay, so it's just
Hopefully
3
we'll be-
additional months and no cap on how much.
Right.
Okay, and so then what kind of time frame would they have to decide if they want to would they have that 3 months to decide
No.
if they,
At the end of the year, they have to decide if they're gonna carry it over, if they're gonna get paid out.
so like on their anniversary date, they have to make that.
Prior to their anniversary date, they will have to decide what they're gonna do.
Okay,
How much unused vacation is there right now?
I donated $200
Check's
last year.
gonna be your check.
you wanna know how much is unused right now?
Yeah.
Let me-
Dollars,
Oh,
swag it.
well, I don't even know what they have. Hold on, I can run a report really quick. It's a.
Everybody knows that.
Right.
So, it's so funny.
If you run the report every week, it'd be different.
Yeah.
I just feel like they'll get bunched up with, you have 4 females up there and they all 4 wanna take their vacation instead of getting paid out, and you're not up to full staff.
They're gonna take the money.
Yes.
To me, I'd rather have time off.
Well, and
So would
honestly,
they.
probably would save us money to do a payout on it, because then if it's a vacation payout, it's not subject to WRS. So we wouldn't have those.
There you go.
And it also would save the county money, because if they use that vacation day, you have to pay overtime for some of the shit.
Right.
I'll make a motion.
Make a motion to approve this.
Approve,
Do I have a second?
Second.
And you're approving, what, what's your motion?
What you said.
He said a lot of things. He always says a lot of things.
We're asking for them the ability to either
No, I read that.
take a payout at the end of their year, or be able to carry over their unused vacation and have 6 months to use it.
So this is gonna be the same for JD and patrol,
Yes.
and it'll be the employee's choice.
Yes, at the end of their year, and that runs from July 1 to June 30th of 25.
And if they make the wrong choice, that's their bad.
We're giving them that option.
Yeah.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Alright. Administrative coordinator, budget proposal with human resource.
Here, Stacy, you wanna pass these out?
I think his was, but mine was
Okay, so everything in our budget request is the same except for the 3 highlighted lines. So there's a little bit of an explanation down at the bottom that I hand wrote. So we'll start with 216, contracted services. That line is now including anything that is charged to Carlson Detman. So for instance, if we need to reclass a position, that's the line that's being charged to. And then also all of the background checks that Ashley runs with the DOJ are charged to that line as well. plus our life insurance. So those are three things that really hadn't been hitting that budget line before, so I think increasing $2,000 up to $15,000 should be sufficient for 2025. 319 is office supplies. We now have 2 people, in our department rather than just 1, so just an increase there. And then 340 is the big increase in the budget. We are requesting $10,000 for contracting with Keeping Safety Simple. If you guys remember, we had Dustin last year. He did our safety manual and he did courthouse-wide trainings. He worked especially with maintenance, forestry, land con, and he currently is still on a contractual basis with our highway department. Losing him was a big deal, especially for those departments I just mentioned, forestry, maintenance. They have a lot that goes into their training. So we are requesting that $10,000 so we can continue working with Dustin for a few days a year.
On 216, it says unemployment, what does that mean?
So on line 216.
Like
On the red.
oh, sorry, like administrative fees that we pay, like, cause we use a third party company.
Okay.
To handle our unemployment claims. Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry, that wasn't clear. So unemployment, like if HHS loses an employee and they're paying unemployment, that would come out of the HHS budget.
Yeah.
So, yeah, okay.
313 was an increase to copies prints.
Well, that's just because
That's
of
we have to
the interview packets that she prints, yeah.
Actually, if I'm reading this here correctly, your budget's going down 14,000.
It sure is. Part of that big overage, Jim, for last year was legal fees.
Not anticipating.
More questions?
Any motion on this or what?
Do I have a motion to approve?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Human Resources, the Human Resources report.
Okay, so in July, the month of July, we had 5 total terms. We had a disability benefit specialist, a social services worker, facilities manager, highway worker 2, and jailer dispatcher were the 5. And we hired 4 people, and by hired, I mean they started in the month of July. And that was the breastfeeding peer counselor, a jailer dispatcher, veteran service officer, and a clerk 3 in the HHS departments. For open positions, we have quite a few right now. So we have an assistant finance director position open. We filled this internally with an HHS accountant, so that person will be starting here in the month of August into that assistant finance director position. That in turn opens up a finance accountant in HHS, and so we have started recruiting for that last week. We have an operations manager position that is still open. We had hired someone, but he had to withdraw due to the union would not sign his withdrawal letter to get his pension, and he was in the union for 18 and a half years. So we did have to repost that position, and that will be posted until next week. The highway commissioner position is posted until this Wednesday. We are looking for an information and assistant specialist, that is posted until Wednesday. We are currently actively recruiting, with not much luck, in applications for 4 jailer dispatchers. We have a disability benefit specialist, that job posting closed late last week, and we will be setting up interviews in conjunction with that information and assistant specialist, they're both in the ADRC. Facilities manager, that position closed, and we're doing interviews on Wednesday, this coming Wednesday for that position. And then social service worker, we have 2 openings and we conducted interviews today, so we'll be moving forward in that process. Questions, comments, concerns?
So we had somebody willing to leave a union job to come work at the county, earlier, you said?
He rescinded his offer.
Well, because they wouldn't have any benefits.
Yeah, he has to wait a year and a half longer. 28. Crazy, they still have that control.
Well, you can't walk away from that.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, he was really disappointed. He would be interested in the future if anything was.
They can't do that anyway, they can't renege on that anyway, for everybody. That wasn't gonna happen.
Do you have anything else on the human resources report? Number 6, personnel discipline and termination policy changes. So, we're back to this, yes. And the verbiage on how we're going to do this. I had a conversation with Ashley Goodis about this. And it's been an ongoing conversation for a couple months now. And I think we've come to an agreement on what my proposal will be on this, and I'll see what the rest of the committee thinks. But when we get to suspension and termination, so levels 3 and 4, instead of having this go through the personnel committee from the human resources manager, I think we changed the wording to be the human resources manager and the department head will determine the appropriate level of action to be taken there. Once that action has been taken, they will make the board chair, the personnel chair, and the administrative coordinator aware of the action that was taken. For department heads and everything else, it will still stay exactly how it's written. That still has to all go through the full board. But this just does away with the employment hearings prior to the grievance process, where the employees come in and have to sit down in front of the 5 of us on the personnel committee and go through all of that stuff. We're not involved in that day-to-day decision-making like the department heads and HR are with those employees' jobs. I think we need to let them handle this.
Yeah. This is how this is written.
This is the current policy that we have.
Oh, okay.
That's,
So do we have a draft? Of what your proposed changes are?
Did you get this about this?
yes.
I said, no, Stacy had just talked about this, cause this agenda item was coming from
Yes,
Stacy.
Okay.
because I'm trying to put
You're
this.
just giving us.
I mean, it's very
Yes,
similar to the
yes.
draft, it would be very similar to the draft I had originally that went to the board twice. So I did bring that copy with me, I just don't have a copy for you guys. Cause that had stated before, the department had, so what it would say is the department had human resources and human resources manager will determine if termination of employment is necessary for all staff, with the exception of the appointed officials as described in Rusk County Ordinance Section 2-119. Recommendations for that for those appointed officials would be referred to the personnel committee. But otherwise, it would be the department head and human resources manager, and then once action was taken, the HR manager would notify the administrative coordinator, personnel chair, and county board chair, would be how it would be written. And then I don't know, we used to, when I was first proposing these changes, we had talked about if there was that vacancy in the, I don't know if you can pull up an old packet.
If there's a vacancy in either one of those two positions,
Yeah, as it was written in the past, I had put in there, if there's a vacancy of a department head or human resources manager and an interim has not been named, the personnel committee shall appoint another department head, manager, or supervisor to be involved in the termination decision. In the event an appropriate individual cannot be named, the recommendation for discipline or termination shall be referred to the personnel committee. And then it would have to follow the employment hearing process.
So then somebody will bring a draft of that next one, is that the goal of this? Or you just gonna write it up?
Yeah, I mean, if Ashley can pull up, it's very similar to what was before. So if you guys wanna see that, I can just make a couple edits on it. Technically, you're not changing suspension. Suspension is written that it is with the HR manager and the supervisor, notice suspension. So that won't be changing, it's really just termination. So that's how it was written. That was, how many months, 2 months ago maybe?
Yeah. It's been a couple months.
It was the
We've
June
been-
board
We've been
meeting.
kicking this around for a while.
so we're taking administrative coordinator out, oh, that's correct. It's just gonna be department head and human resource manager.
Yes.
That's what Mr. Zimmer's recommendation is.
There's two things. It allows us to have an impartial person in administration if it goes to the grievance policy. And then it also takes the personnel committee out from having employee and hearings to discuss this.
And then there's still a grievance process.
Yeah, they still have all their.
Yeah, you can't take that
process.
away, that's a statutory, right? It'd be-
Yes, all that stuff is still there.
They would not have a hearing, an employment hearing. You know, we had looked at many other counties, and a lot of other counties do it that way.
Is this for employees and department heads or
No,
just
just
employees?
employees.
The department head?
Department head still has to go through,
Administration stays the same as how it
Right.
has been, okay.
all employed employees still have to go through the process as it was written. That does not change.
Mr. Meyer, what do you think?
What is it?
Would you like to share?
Not all of it. There's a lot of things I keep to myself, hard for you guys to believe. I'm reading the second paragraph, I'm just, I don't know if I like the appropriate individual, what's gonna be the criteria for someone to be deemed appropriate?
Well, that would be whoever you guys appointed as an interim,
Right.
or whoever you guys appointed to sit in on that termination. If you can think of a better word to put in there, that's fine, I just use that word in the event an appropriate individual, referencing if you guys did name an interim, or if an interim hadn't been named, which would be named by the committees. So if an interim hadn't been named, and or the personnel committee did not appoint another department head, that's where you wouldn't have an appropriated individual didn't get named.
I know it just leaves a little bit open interpretation. If,
So in the
let's just
event
say
an
all of us are
individual
not
cannot
here
be-
someday, someone else might read this and come up with
But you could just say in the event
Their
an
own version.
individual
Yeah.
cannot be named.
They designate it.
I mean,
yeah,
why would
you
you
know.
not be able to find a department head, a manager, or supervisor involved? I mean, why would you
We
not be
know
able
what the
to find?
intent was in putting that on paper, but someone else may not understand it the same way.
So take appropriate out in the event an individual cannot be named, the recommendation of discipline or termination shall be referred to the personnel committee.
Or appointed individual. That would cover both your department head and your,
Yeah, cause an interim would be appointed through the committee.
Right.
And then if we didn't do an interim, the personnel committee would appoint another department head, so in the event an appointed individual cannot be named.
pick it apart, people. You gotta pick it apart to the point that we may not be reading this someday.
Right.
But it's left to interpretation.
I personally liked that the administrative coordinator was in there, but that didn't pass the first time, so I think that's why Stacy's trying to rework that.
And again, it also leaves the administrative coordinator, the board chair and the personnel chair, whoever that may be in the future, it leaves them as impartial to this decision, so when it comes to, if it comes to a grievance back before the board, there's people who weren't directly involved in that, who can look at that from the impartial perspective, because right now, if we go through an employment hearing, this committee decides that employee needs to be terminated. Now that goes to a grievance policy and it comes in front of the full board. All of us who sat in that employment hearing, we've already made a decision. And that doesn't seem to be an appropriate way to handle that, for them, the five of us, to sit in there again and say, well, now we'll be impartial this time. We remove that whole process from it, plus, we're gonna sit through this later this week.
I guess I don't have a problem with that when it goes to the full board, if I've already decided based on the
Well,
facts.
and I understand that, but I'm just saying, it's one of those things where, so we'll sit through, if we're gonna sit through the employment hearings, then we're gonna be bringing people in here when somebody needs to be
Oh, I
terminated.
agree with that. I agree
That's,
with that.
and I'm trying to just remove that, and if
I
we
agree
can,
with that.
if we involve, so if Ashley has to call the board chair or the personnel chair before they make that decision, now we have to go through an employment hearing, because now we're involved in that decision making, where if we
Well, you can
remove.
do it in conjunction,
Right.
you just can't call a meeting or you have a
Right.
vote on it.
But if we remove that from this, now HR department head can take care of managing their people. And it leaves the administrative coordinator and the board chair and the personnel chair to be impartial
Right.
for anything moving forward.
Right. And that's the way it should be.
Right,
That's a good point.
Just simplify.
yes.
I don't know what, say the administrative coordinator has in the grievance process.
Well, it just gives, it gives administration a ability to look at something from
Yeah, I just,
the outside rather than the people directly involved in it, and I think it's good business practice to do that. to have that.
Good. We voting on it now?
If we want to, we can send this to the full board in August, yes. If that's what we decide to do.
You're fine writing it the same way, just taking out administrative coordinator, correct? And then changing appropriate to appointed.
Yes. I am
And
fine.
I did add in there, once action is taken, the HR manager would notify the administrative coordinator, personnel chair, and county board chair.
Correct. Mr. Meyer,
Well,
do you have anything else?
there's four other people here that can make a motion.
I'm asking if you have anything else you would like to say,
That you wanna share with us.
or would like to share.
I'll probably never be totally happy with it, no matter how it ends up, but I think I can live with this.
I'll make the motion then.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
That you can share. We know some things you can't share.
Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Alright. Number 8, maintenance technician LTEs for maintenance department.
Did you skip
Oh,
one?
about 7.
7, maintenance extension, I'm sorry, I missed 7. Maintenance extension support positions, job duties.
That's Mr. Meyer.
Was it?
Surprise.
I thought that was last month.
Yeah, I mean, I think the consensus was to put it on this one.
It all blends together.
Maybe Mr. Zimmer could give us an update on LandCon, cause I was not at that last meeting.
We still have nothing on that from LandCon. They're still looking into it.
The only thing that I can say is I know that he had,
Am I correct on that, Mr. Schneider?
Yeah.
That's where we left that, was they were still looking into that, so. Alright, go ahead, Ashley, I'm sorry.
oh, sorry, the only thing I wanted to say that is I know what LandCon was looking into, and I think Mr. Meyer, you had alluded to this last month, is that LandCon was looking into it and they were potentially going to have to create a part-time position and ask for more money for that. I think you were the one that stated this, that why wouldn't we just keep it then with Char and have her hire some part-time person to help her? And I would agree with that, if that's the path they're going, why would we totally give it to LandCon and redo it all instead of just giving Char help to do it? I'm not saying you guys even approved that at LandCon, but I'm just saying if it would go that way, why would we move it all
Well,
together?
the first thing that was discussed at this committee before the election was looked at forestry. Never really got a reason back from forestry as to why it wouldn't work, or just said it wouldn't work. So Char was in here and she had the idea of being that they were doing some youth type conservation training on land and water, that maybe it would fit in there. I'm still not sure why it won't fit in forestry when summertime is a little bit slower, is my understanding in that department. And that's kind of spring and summer when recycling picks up, from what little bit I've dug into this. I don't know, I think it's a question more for Char to explain to us maybe, so that we have the facts straight, but I thought it'd be a simple thing to move across the hallway to help pick up the slack from that part of it, cause it's only listed as, what is it, Jamie, 10%
Yes.
recycling? I mean, I don't know if that's a fair assumption of that number, cause it's based on budget, but
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there's potential to put more into it, but the grant only covers so much.
And we're not putting levy into it.
There is,
Right.
there's a little bit of levy.
Yeah, but not what it would require to go to a part-time employee. I mean, that would require significantly more levy going into it than what we currently put into it, correct? Yeah, I mean, so that's I think even in land and water, we were kind of cringing about the idea of doing that.
Right, and that,
You know.
and so be it, it was just an idea that
Right.
came out before. But like I
I think it was
said,
a great idea, we didn't know that was gonna be the recommendation of the committee, or of the department head either, that they couldn't absorb it.
but Char's come in here a couple times with her concerns of being overwhelmed in that department, and I think we need to keep this on our radar to try to hopefully come up with some type of resolution.
I agree, and I think it would be good to have Shar here to have that conversation with her about it too. So, I mean,
I guess I'm back until I hear a reason why, you know, and where the hours are at in that department. I mean, I just thought it'd be simple to move this right across the hallway, and then if there was no questions of Shar, et cetera, I thought that would make it a real easy transition. But yet it would take the full brunt of it off of her plate. I'm sure she's the type that would help if there was questions or whatever, but, you know, but.
yeah, I don't see Shar telling somebody, oh no, figure it out for
Right.
yourself. I don't see that
I
happening.
think just the responsibility of it needs to be taken off her plate. Somehow. So I'm back to forestry. Until,
So do we want to,
support position, job duties. Okay, so the way it's worded, can't make a motion that way anyhow, so. We need to discuss more of the duties that, so they're all on the table. Not just recycling, the way this is listed.
right, without Shar here to have a conversation with, it makes it really, really difficult for us to.
Well, I think, to be honest, Char's plate is really full, and she has made the committee known multiple times what she's
Right.
looking for, and I think it's a little frustrating. to
That
come
is
back.
the one she threw out, if I remember, correct me if I'm wrong, but that is one that we can't.
She wanted extension on.
Yes.
But
She
the
was talking
recycling
that.
came up once too during one of our discussions with her. Were you here for that one?
No.
You remember that, Ashley? Ashley H?
I do.
I was in that, it was more some extension.
But she didn't
I
wanna
think
give
once
us
we
the
said,
fair.
I think once we said no to extension, she said
She does not wanna give up her.
but the fair is different than extension.
Right, so the her extension duties are like very administrative in terms of like printing, doing social media updates.
So she wanted extension, which is 15%.
Yes. I think it's 15.
And I think once they said no to that, that was when it was like, well, what else can we do? And then it was looked at,
I
and
don't
it was like,
remember why extension kinda got. I do remember that.
I think
now,
that
but we
was-
didn't talk very
it
much
was
about
in
extension, it got
extension.
switched to recycling.
Right,
it was in the extension meeting that it first got brought up, so it might not have even been personnel when they discussed it, because this first came to extension.
I just
We talked
remember
about the
talking a
extension
lot about
duties.
recycling.
Yeah, we were talking about the percentages of all the heads.
Yeah. And so when I got here already, extension might have already been nixed, and it was, what else can we do?
because I think didn't extension request an upping her to 25%, and then that difference was 10%, and if 10% is recycling, I think that is where that math played into it. If you could take recycling away, extension could go up to the 25%, but ultimately Justice Youth Extension decided not to go that route.
Her dream would be to get extension
Off of her plate.
Yes.
And I did tell her she didn't have to come today because she's busy at the fair, she did
Yes.
ask me. So if we wanted to have a bigger discussion next month, we could with her present.
Well, I agree with Stacy, she needs to be a part of it. I just hate moving it down. We've already, I think it started 4 months ago, give or take. But
Well, and if possible, when we get a facilities manager vision of how they want their department structured too.
I think we should probably bring it back next month and have Shar here and have a conversation with her.
Yeah, I don't think we have much
How
choice.
that looks, and, I
Makes
mean,
his job apart.
right,
Right. I know I've got, and she might have changed her opinion since the last time she came in and talked
Right.
about it.
so. Okay with that?
Yep.
Alright. Maintenance technician LTEs for maintenance department.
So this is coming from property committee did, approve 2 LTEs for the maintenance department to be, due to the staffing shortages and potentially another staffing shortage, so approved up to 2 LTEs, so coming here to approve that through personnel as well. At this time, maintenance does not feel that they need that, but we don't wanna have to wait a whole nother month if they do, depending on where their staffing falls. So LTEs typically are capped around 600-ish hours, 3 to 4 months is where we cap them at. And there wouldn't be any financial impact because it would go to, based off of open positions that we would have.
So we're looking for 1, 2, 3,
Property approves up to 2.
2, okay.
So I would ask for the same thing right now, we wouldn't post any of that based on how Shar and the maintenance techs feel, but that could change.
Any more questions for Ashley? Not, do I have a motion to approve?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Ambulance service wage adjustments for 2025, the resolution.
So, I think you got somewhere near the latest resolution. So with the numbers that you see on that resolution, I went to, finance, cause they met first, with a $60,000 fiscal impact. They thought we should go up a little higher, just because the wages need to be a little higher. So I adjusted that top of the 2 boxes, if you will, up 50 cents more. And then we came out with about 88, a little over 88,000 instead of 80. So that's where we left it, and then because personnel decides what wages are and how they get set, we thought you guys could make the adjustments that you see necessary. The simple math, if you wanna stick to the 80,000, if you take, one change I'd like to see here is anybody taking full-time hours, period, would get that $1, but if you knock that down to 50 cents instead of $1 an hour, it takes off $8,760, which gets you under your 80,000 fiscal impact, and that was requested, I guess. Was that the right word, requested, Mr. Meyer?
Well, that's what finance passed to send on for approval for
On the
funds to be used, yes.
Right. So that gets us under that. So that's still.
It was open how we were gonna get to that number,
Right,
but.
yeah, we left it up to personnel to figure out how to get to that number. I adjusted it just to get up closer to that number, and I went screaming over it. So, not terrible, I mean, it was 10% over the number. But that is the easy fix, so that wouldn't change the resolution other than 1 line. And again, after that, it's up to you. Just as it's hard to compare what we have here to anybody else because we don't have the intercepts other places have. We don't have backup with a paramedic ambulance that other places have. I gotta think of the right name, it's not Phillips. Prentice has a on-call, per-call ambulance, and their staff is making $25 an hour. That's their base pay plus their on-call pay of $3 to $3.50 an hour. So this gets us closer to them. Again, they have intercepts going north, and if they go to Medford, we do if Sheldon goes toward Medford, we have it, and if Bruce or Ladysmith, if they're way on the west end, go toward Rice Lake, we have intercepts. We very seldom go north, so we don't see a Sawyer County intercept. We had, I think, one the first 6 months of this year, and it happened to be right close to where the county line is. That's why they came to the party. So our folks have to make a lot of decisions that some others at the EMT basic level don't have to make. So I think this is a good step. I think it's a start. And I don't wanna say that, you know, you need to do this every year, but at least they're seeing that they're getting close to, you know, they can go to still a paper mill here, Allen Bradley, Weather Shield, night shift at Quick Trip makes more than they do right now. And some of the positions you guys have opened up, part-time, not part-time, but like the position you created as a second person at the animal shelter was $2 an hour more than my EMTs currently make. You didn't fill that position, but that's how the position stands in the, Carlson Detman survey thing.
$2 more than this?
No, $2 more than they currently make at the 1732, cause I think that was 1920. So it's real close to a couple dollars more than, which, you know, is a kick rate in the shorts to an EMT that's out here working, 36-hour shifts right now, and they're just not feeling the love. Let's put it that way. And the other things you've done with the health insurance, we have 9 full-time EMTs now. They're gonna appreciate that stuff with the health insurance too, because, you know, I had some humongous bills last year, and this year I reached my 13.5 out of pocket for last year and this year, but last 2 months of this year, the first 4 months of this year. So I'm looking at $27,000 out of pocket I'm paying because of where the deductibles and stuff are right now. So I appreciate what you do with the health insurance also, so. That's how I wrote it. The Emergency Services Committee really didn't make a change, but we had some discussions. Joe and I had our normal discussions, which we like to do. And then it went to finance, yep, and we had some good discussions there about, you know, is it enough to make a difference in hiring and things like that. We just hired, Ashley missed one because we hired a new EMT. That might have been in August already though, wasn't it? No, it was the end of last month. So it was, we hired a new EMT last month and a new full-time EMT last month. And both of them liked the way this looked, you know, a couple dollars more an hour, even though they're new. So, and I also put in the length of service thing in. Never been able to convince you guys to give them a length of service award for those folks that don't get retirement through the county. This gives them a little length of service. 50 cents after 5 years, another 50 after 10 years. You can change that to higher. I mean, you give them another 50 cents after 15 years. I got people that got, Marty, how many years you got in? 115? 45.
Yeah, 40. If you got 50 cents for every 5 years, kind of broke.
Yeah.
Not saying you don't deserve it. Right?
Yeah. And he's still, I mean, he's not responding anymore, but tomorrow he's getting up early and taking an ambulance for us down to Chippewa for a front end alignment and a recall. I don't have to pull somebody out from a truck then to do that. Marty's willing to, you know, take his time. It'll probably cost me coffee or something someday. I guess if you got any questions or concerns.
So you're thinking this line 22 here, changing it to 50 cents would put it back down to the appropriated amount?
Correct. If you take that, if you change it to that, anybody that works on the full-time truck. So let's say every Saturday I have a part-timer that takes a shift, Saturday to Sunday morning, 24 hours. They cover the full-time truck because this is the way the cycle is. You've got 2 open shifts there for the 24. Everybody else puts in 36. So when one of the part-timers takes that full-time shift, they get that also. So if they got the 50 cents, that would come out to that 87.60 a year. I just took 24/7, 365. That's what it comes out to. That's, well, it's half of that. 40, whatever the hell half of that is. And then I doubled it because there's 2 people. So I told, I saw you look, Stacy. I've told Jamie 100,000 times since I worked here, I am not in the finance department. All right, if I need something financed, she's the gal. I send it right over to her. I give her rough numbers and send it over there. And then she goes, that's worse than enough, but okay. So, yeah. And of course, that's not figuring in, you know, social security, all that, it's gonna be a little bit different than that, but that's it, that was the simplest adjustment for me to make to get that 8,000 that we were over what the finance committee said. Now, personnel could say, well, we don't care, you know, the finance said, we're gonna leave it that way, okay, I can go with that too, you know, it's just what's gonna go through the board. I wanted to go through the county board too.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Was this 10 more years, $3 increase, is that what the 2232 is?
Yes, and if you took it down to 50 cents, it'd be 21.82 rather than 22.32 for the top end. So that's the most somebody would make working for the annual service currently.
And then if you get a 5-year or 10-year, then bump it 50 cents. So if you hit 20, you get another.
No, I only have the 5 and 10. Like I said, we could add 15 and 20 at a later date, but right now it's just a 5 and 10. So somebody with 20 years still only gets the 50 cents. And again, I don't know that the fiscal impact on, if you added some, you know, another 50 cents at 20 years, I might have 3 or 4 that have that much time in. I'd have more than that, but a couple of them, like Mary Schneider, had to retire and come back in, well then she starts over. Jim Griglock retired, came back in, he comes over. Jim Rossbach retired, came back in, they start over, 100 years of service, so it's continuous, it says continuous length of service. If you take continuous out, then those people get included. But, and the reason Ashley helped me write this, and the reason continuous is in there is because that's what you did for all the other county employees, for their steps that they got, was continuous length of service.
So, I'm gonna ask you a question, Jim. Are you really gonna move this back to 80,000? Is that serious consideration, or, you know, look at it from the perspective of,
You know how hard it was and how many Google eyes I had to give Undershoot to get him to go from 60 something to 80?
And he's not kidding.
It took some time.
okay. So,
I'm not saying
so
that.
when it comes to your family member, does it really matter?
No,
I mean,
you
that's-
have no argument from me there.
That's the point I'm making here.
And that's why we had the discussion that we're like, if we're gonna try to fix this, now's the time to
Right.
fix it. At least a little bit more than we were.
And we figured a percentage, you know, I was going up so far, you added so much more percentage wise. And you could do it different, I mean, if you added the 50 cents for 20 years and leave the 50 cents per hour for full time, you know, the fiscal impact isn't as big as the $8,000.
I mean, I'll be honest, my mind was, here's where I'll share my thoughts with you. The day in finance, my mind was thinking mid-80s. I didn't think it was gonna happen, so I settled for 80. But at least I was happy that we got something
Right.
more moved in the right direction.
I agree with you on that. I personally don't see a problem with this. Honestly, I really don't.
I don't, I'm just trying to make it palatable for the county board so it doesn't get kicked back, which in the past, I've got my ass whooped in the county board
Well,
meeting.
I just wanna say that CNAs make at least
Right.
$22 an hour. They're not going out at 2 AM on icy roads and have to climb down into a van and pull people out.
And actually, Mr. Undershoots made the comment that, hey, as a firefighter, I've seen what these EMTs do, and I ain't doing it for that much money. He did say
Well,
that.
I've seen what they do too, and
Has to be done when you're doing the job.
Yeah,
Did it for a long time.
you did it for a long time. We worked together for quite a while. I think your husband was even employing me, maybe not, maybe he wasn't an employee of mine at one time here.
No, I was when
The kids were,
Prior to you.
Yeah, the kids
Most
were.
of my kids were.
Yeah.
Yes. That isn't that much money to do what you have to do,
no.
and see what you have to see.
what was the original one you brought in again, Tom? I'm just trying to.
So if you took that first chart up on the top, that first box, drop those all down 50 cents, that's what the first one was.
That's what you brought to finance.
That's what I brought to finance.
And then you
And that
started the
came out
same
at
down on the bottom,
And that came out to 59,000 something, just under 60.
but you still had the 50 cents.
Yep, 50 for 5 years, 50 for 10, yep. Right, for that range, yeah. And it still leaves them with a goofy number, you know, because it's, they got or whatever it was last year, so that's what's got them to 1732. Cause they were at 16, so the 2% was off of the $16.
Jamie, is this your number roughly, this 88,201?
Yes.
And is there anything we need to know that's gonna be above and beyond that? I mean, do you have
That would include fringe.
fringes are in here for this?
Yeah, I estimated the hours based on what was actually worked from July 1st, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
So it's a 12, it was figured on 12 years old.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
And I, just clarification, is that with
Really?
the, yeah, I just, because this is written with $1 an hour for full-time. And I wanna know if it's $1 an hour for anybody that works that truck, or is it $1 an hour for full-time?
My assumptions were based on that it was anybody that's a full-time employee, any call hour or like regular hours that they're working.
See, her assumption was that somebody that's working for the county full-time in Ladesmith, when they go back to Sheldon and they work, they get that same wage they got here. That wasn't my idea. My idea was when you're on a full-time truck, you make that money. When you go back to a part-time truck, you make what they make.
Yeah, and based on the data that I have that we received through payroll, I couldn't distinguish that, so.
So that's how this is written, that on the full-time truck.
If they're
This is a
working a
spirit thing.
full-time truck, they get $1 an hour.
$1 an hour more. Anybody. That's,
How are you going to,
the ones that work on a full-time truck do a time sheet.
I mean, how are you going to let her know if they're a part-time employee that they get that extra
Because-
dollar? You'll be able to
Because they do a time
differentiate
sheet.
that with her?
They do a time sheet. So from then, whenever it gets passes from that
Good
point
luck with
forward,
that, Jamie.
it'll be two.
He's gonna have to get his stuff together then.
Well, that's only a few, it ain't a lot, so, there's less than a half a dozen that take full-time shifts, but there's some, you know, that have to take, and PTO, I mean, my staff's been around a while, they kinda like it here, so they're building PTO, well, I want them to kinda take that time off, so I have to have somebody to fill that position, so that costs money, like Phil said,
Is that how this
overtime.
is written then?
Yeah, that impact could be.
I don't have the data to be able to calculate that because it's all convoluted with payroll.
The original is Jill,
Of this,
yes, the resolution.
Ashley probably has it. You have the original one yet, or you mean this one, Connie?
Yeah.
I did print the color copy.
This one?
Yeah.
No, I wrote all over this bastard, so you can't.
You can print one off so we can.
Yes, I can print one off.
Yes. Yeah, let's get that.
Yeah, it barely fits on the page, that's the problem, needs to be adjusted a little
So
bit.
if you print one off, I'll bring it back.
Yeah, I'll get it on one page, hopefully.
Up to you.
No, it's not gonna happen.
Say that again, if they go back to Sheldon.
You get it on one page?
Yeah, we both tried.
If they're working, they have a full-time truck and then they have part-time trucks in three different areas, so.
So on the part-time trucks, our
They get full-time.
calendar payroll system handles all of that and figures out the hours. The full-time people do a timesheet separate from that. So now I already, for 8 of them, separate that all out. Mostly
You
just,
don't know what that's gonna change it.
well, it'll lower it because she figured it on all of their hours, right? The full-time people?
They just said no.
Yeah, but
she did.
well, yeah, based on like the full-time people, those their total hours, I don't have it I don't have the information to segregate it.
No,
Unless I went and looked at all the individual timesheets, but I'm not going to do that for 12.
that's a lot of work. But for instance, Amanda Nicholson at Sheldon is a full-time person who puts in a ton of hours of runtime in Sheldon. So she would cost you quite a bit of money getting that extra dollar no matter where she is. I mean, physically, that would be a bigger impact than some of the other ones that don't put in that many hours.
So it shouldn't change that amount much, if at all.
I would think it'd be under that, I would think.
I can't.
Yeah, it'd take me a couple of weeks to tear those numbers apart. I put them together every payroll, so that's twice a month I do all that. So I'd have to tear it back apart again.
It's just the difference between a full-time employee getting $1 an hour and a part-time employee getting $1 an hour, so it's the same amount of hours, same amount of extras.
Somebody's covering it, yeah.
Isn't really gonna change much.
Not on the full-time truck, but it'll change what she figured on the part-time trucks. Cause she figured it you're full-time up here, no matter where you go, you're getting that full-time wage.
So it's gonna
That's a
drop.
lot of hours. It should go down, I think.
So, we have a motion and we have a second. Mr. Schneider?
Could I address Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I promise I won't go through what I did at the county board meeting, again. Marty and I realized we're losing, we came here for 87.5 years of 50 cents an hour, so it doesn't look like we're getting that. But it was definitely worth what we did. One of the things I want, cause I've heard a lot about it, departments pay their staff to get trained, EMTs still don't. It goes from 180 hours up to 220 hours maybe here shortly, they don't get paid for that, that's.
They don't get paid to sit in the class.
Yeah.
Yeah, the class gets paid for it, but they don't get paid to sit.
Yeah, you don't get paid your time. So that's one of the things that I'd like to see somewhere down the road worked on. And the other thing is, I think since all the other pay raises happen during the year, I think this one should happen first of the month after this passes, hopefully it passes, because everybody else got a pay raise in the middle of the year, correct? So I think this should be amended to go through August, September 1st. I think that would make them very happy. Be treated like everybody else finally. That's all I got.
So we have a motion on the floor and a second. Any further discussion?
I think if we're going to, being it was passed this way for France, I think. You're going to correct me, Phil. I wonder if we should take that part up at county board.
That's fine, I'm just bringing it up now.
Because then we can have the numbers in place then also to present as to.
What do you mean as far as when it takes effect?
Yeah.
Yeah, we can discuss then when it takes effect.
That's fine.
And even if you came up with something to throw it out there as, so much a day for training, so much, I don't know what that, you know, that number we could sit here and spitball for now.
Well, yeah, I
Maybe
can,
that just
I mean,
needs to be a
we're looking at
different,
next year.
maybe that
Yeah,
just
somewhere
needs
down the
to be
road. I
a
just wanna let
different
everybody
thing.
know, we're the only department that doesn't get paid.
I can cover the raises if it started September 1st within my budget, I think, we'd be.
And that'd be a good thing, I think, to bring.
I know it's my budget, but for 2025, I did not figure paying for people to sit in training, so it,
Yeah, that's fine.
that would have to get changed or wait till next year.
We're not addressing the,
Right now, this
training
says,
right now.
No,
Addressing
and this says the start time of January 1st, 2025.
Correct. And that you can bring up at county board to amend that to a different date if you want.
Yeah,
Okay, perfect.
Well, currently we have the numbers by then, or have the numbers.
we should, shortly have the right numbers.
And then you can double check and address the board of what you have, you know, when you could start it
Mhm.
in your budget.
Right.
And then there'd be no
Yeah,
impact.
I'd have to talk to her.
I think that'd be a good idea.
Alright,
Instead of
so
spitballing it.
we have the motion on the floor and a second to approve this resolution as written. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Chair, the recommendation from Emergency Services was that you pass this resolution and that the personnel committee also consider placing full-time EMT on the wage scale. Are you okay if that's an agenda item?
Yes.
At least the full time.
Yes, let's have that conversation.
All right, so, again, for clarity, not sure what this reads. What did we do with the full-time, people are gonna get it when they're on the full-time truck?
Yes, we
Okay.
left it exactly as you have it right
Right,
here.
that's the way I read it, and somebody else read it as they got it all the time, I think Jamie did, and I'm like, we probably better get some clarity on that. And do you want me to clean that up a little bit so it says that? Or do we?
As written.
Huh, as written?
As written,
So then it would have to be something I'd have to bring up to the county board.
yes.
Okay, that's,
Let's address that at county board as well.
that's very good, thank you.
Number 10, employee satisfaction survey. This is on the agenda. I received an email end of July from Mr. Willingham, who couldn't make it today. that we look into doing an employee satisfaction survey through all of our employees to see if we can help identify some of our retention and recruitment problems that we're having. There are multiple ways to go about doing this. I'm not really gonna dig into all of those right now. Like I said, this was a request from Mr. Willingham, and being he is a member of this committee, it was appropriate to have it on this agenda. Any survey we did would have to be a confidential survey, obviously. You know, nobody knowing who the employees are, because doing a survey and having people know who the employee is really makes zero sense, because.
Right, Ashley? Did we do one last year?
That was in relation to like pay and benefits. This would just be an overall general satisfaction survey.
It's a wider scope.
Yes.
Who's gonna write the survey up?
It would
Jim, are you?
No, my job.
probably end up going through a third party, I guess. Yes.
Yeah, I would say.
I mean,
What is it that we're trying to understand? What is the survey, what is it that we're trying to understand? I think all the department heads have brought it to us numerous times, what the problems are. No, yes.
like I said, this was a request to me from Mr. Willingham, and I brought it up here. We can push this till September if we want, and have a conversation again when Mr. Willingham can be here, so he can share his thoughts on this. I don't think that would be inappropriate at all.
I know, because if you're gonna hire somebody to write out a survey for us, we have to know what exactly do we really wanna know. I don't
So.
know what we already hearing from the surveys, when people leave to the surveys, department heads. So I've told us we kinda have the same information over and over and over and over and over again. So are we gonna pay somebody to hand out papers that may or may not say something different?
We probably should push it.
I think would be the appropriate decision.
Dave needs to
Right.
Say something.
say something, he's not
Right.
here.
He's not here, and this was his request, and I think it's appropriate to allow him to share that with
I
us.
don't disagree with you at all.
Next month.
Thank you. Number 11, approve retroactive compensation for the interim facilities manager.
Okay, so, Charmaine Riddle was named the interim facilities manager, and, they had approved that at the full board, and they decided not to do a wage, that we would bring that back to a committee to determine that wage. And so the personnel committee is where that is coming back to determine that retroactive compensation back to Wednesday, July 24th, and it would end once the position is filled. Charmaine is an hourly employee, so what we have done in the past would be to put that person at step 1 of that facilities manager wage rate on the Cross-Detman wage scale, which would be an hourly rate of $32.49, retro back to Wednesday, July 24th.
What's that number?
Per dollar amount? Based on the hours that she puts in this time of year, it's really hard. I mean, there's a lot of overtime put in for the.
So she would get that on an hourly basis for all hours?
That's not what, I mean, that's what.
Do you wanna speak to that at all, as the property chair?
So she gets paid a certain amount for doing the job she does.
Typically what we would do with somebody is, yes, we pay on all hours, depending on, that's like our interim highway commissioner still is doing their normal job duties, but since it's hard to say which hours
Yeah, you
are
can't.
what. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they've gotten that on all hours. I think if you did that with the hourly rate of the 32.49, the extra would, you wouldn't increase the budgets to where it's split.
Right.
It would hit in facilities.
So like if we have like 10% goes to recycling for Char, we wouldn't assess this increase in her hourly rate to the recycling budget. Any kind of above and beyond her normal recycling hours would be charged off to the maintenance budget. And same with extension and,
So what's the difference right now roughly per hour, ballpark?
what's her hourly?
656.
How much?
656, but then, well, it'd be over 10 with overtime. Most of the
So
hours.
she's getting $6.56 to do both jobs?
An hour
An
straight
hour.
pay without overtime, yeah.
For the time of year she took that on, that ain't nothing too much.
It was a
But
straight
you
40
gotta figure
hours or
there's probably
something.
gonna be
Right, we would
40
just-
hours of, like, this week of overtime.
Yeah, we would leave her ability to earn overtime with her. It's not salaried, she'd stay hourly.
Yeah, it's just,
Right. So she would be compensated for those additional hours.
Yeah.
Yearly.
Did anyone talk to her? Is she satisfied with that? Did they ran that number?
Yes,
You've gotten feedback?
yes, she would not be satisfied, I don't think, for a stipend. Which is what we've done with salaried employees. So people who are already salaried
Those are the ones
and who are gonna take
taking
an
the
interim role,
hourly.
something, we've typically given them a monthly stipend of, 1,015 to whatever, amount of money, and I don't think she would go for that.
And what percentage of her job is facility manager versus what she's normally doing? 50%?
You mean like her normal split? Like,
Yeah, I mean, that fair
I
budget
understand
can't-
that.
her
There's
typical,
there's typically no levy in that fair budget, and like these hours are being charged to the fair. That's a
but it wouldn't be, that's what Ashley's saying.
But
If it
if
would,
it's hourly, it would be.
Does it have to be?
Well, if it's hourly, it would be, her hours get charged out based on where she's working.
So
But
can
you
we
would
look at
charge the
past
rate-
couple years at how many hours she typically puts into the fair?
you would continue to charge her rate, I think, to what she did, isn't that what you guys had talked about?
Right.
What she had made, so say she was making $20 an hour, $20 an hour would still be her rate that would get charged to the fair. And the
then
extra would go under
anything extra
facilities
would go to
manager.
Facilities manager.
Yes, under the
We
facility.
would have to transfer levy into that budget then, the fair budget.
Well, but even if it's $6 an
No,
hour.
you wouldn't charge the
$2.50 a week.
32.49,
It's-
you would charge whatever.
Even if you just said we're gonna transfer $1,000 a month.
Well,
So
it'd be
close,
more
it wouldn't even be
than
funny.
overtime, but,
Right. And it's chump change.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but we are interviewing for facilities managers on Wednesday. So this position will probably be filled sooner rather than later. Anyhow, so I mean,
A couple of grand.
right, we're really kind of splitting hairs here. No, but I understand what you're saying.
I mean, all money's important, but you don't wanna, what's that old saying? You don't wanna step over dollars to pick up nickels.
No, I was just
No, I
trying
know
to
you're not, but,
understand.
Right.
I bet these last couple of weeks, you can almost take half of her hours per week and put them on the facilities manager with
Right.
what she's bouncing between the two. You're a third. I mean, if you're looking from a budgetary standpoint, where to put
Right.
it.
Because right now she's probably not touching recycling, she's not touching, some of the other stuff.
Right, so she's putting at least
She's
50%.
doing probably
She's
all
still-
fair and facility manager work. is what
She's probably right now, in the last couple of weeks, 50% fair, 50% facility manager.
Right.
My guess.
Sorry, oh, yeah.
I think you'd be pretty accurate.
Bristol's
on
gonna
that.
be there, Saber's gonna be there. Yeah.
So,
So she's good with so we're okay with doing the hourly at step one? Jamie?
I don't know how that's why I had suggested a stipend, so that's, the stipend amount would hit the maintenance budget, like, because splitting the wage rate, like cause there's you know, the benefits associated with that too, so we would have to just let it charge out and then do a transfer of levy into the fair budget, or wherever those hours are. Like,
Why can't you just, when you do the budget side of it, why can't you just go back to what she had last year at this time, and anything above and beyond that automatically goes to facility manager?
for the hours or
For
hours.
yeah, for the hours of what
for
she's.
the hours? Oh, yeah, and that, well, she charges out her hours based on where she's actually working, so with each payroll, it varies, like, the July 16th through the 31st, she had 132 hours in. Of that, 64 were charged to maintenance, 39.25 to the fair, 6.5 to extension, and 1 to recycling.
She had 132 hours in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I don't remember how many days exactly were
Yeah,
there.
she's busy.
It's crazy.
It's, yeah.
That's why she needs.
Yeah, it was 13 working days, so it was 2.5, or 12 working days, sorry.
It's,
So you could just take those fair hours of whatever and times it by what her rate was and charge the additional to facilities.
Yep.
Is what they're saying,
Right.
right?
yes.
But it's not, that,
The accurate accounting of it, is that what you're concerned
well,
about?
in processing payroll, like.
You just do what you do then.
But,
I mean, there's no reason why we need to do that today here, as long as you kind of have an idea what you're doing.
yeah, I mean, that's why, well, if like, we're gonna do that, we could just figure out the number of hours that we figure, and then figure out a stipend, and then that stipend could 100% be charged, but it's just like when it's the hours that varies, that's the complicated part.
Well, you can take 52 times 32, I mean, or whatever, how many hours was it? It was 132, so you take 80-hour week, you got 52 left, take that times 32, divide that by 2, and that's your stipend per week.
Not getting a stipend.
Right, but I mean, if you wanna look at it that way.
Oh, yeah, you could,
So,
yeah.
yeah, we just gotta figure out a way to, actually, the hourly is the fair thing to do for us, which is,
The top side is probably $1,500 a month.
Right, and it's,
it'll be a little more right now.
it's not even gonna be, right, and it's not even gonna be a whole month,
Right.
you know?
Okay, make a motion.
So we have a motion to approve this.
Second.
Second by Mr. Russell. Any further discussion? Hearing none.
Effective,
Effective retroactive to July
26th.
4th.
I just wanna make sure that was clear.
So any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
So you carried the hourly rate.
Correct.
And this does not have to go any further, correct?
Correct.
Because the board had given, the full board had given this.
Right, and so the full board had already approved this, so. Alright, next item on the agenda is a closed session for preparing for negotiating employee contracts for the sheriff's department pursuant to Wisconsin statutes 19.85, para 1, para E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
Second.
Mr. Russell. Mr. Meyer. Ms. Wallace. Yes, we are now in closed session. Mr. Russell.
I move we adjourn.
We are adjourned 5:44.
Wait, Susie, do you have any signatures on this?